What's going on, guys? Welcome back to our Let's Play here on the Bedrock edition. Now, I first of all want to apologise for the lack of uploads over the past week, and that is purely because this episode that I'm now recording is the fourth time I'm attempting to record an episode regarding the farm that I've been trying to build. Now, as you can see over here, I've got a couple of little budget farms thrown up. I threw up a little cactus farm and a purple farm. Is it purple? I'm assuming it's called purple. But I've just been harvesting them here and there as I've been getting other resources ready. I need cactus for what we're going to be building today. Now, I did actually build the end part of our cathedral, the roof that sort of like wraps around. That was after about 9 or 10 attempts, and I finally got to grips with it being okay. I'm not overly happy, but doing a rounded roof that goes up at that angle was quite difficult actually. But today I want to build a hostile mob farm. Now, I've had major issues. That big block thing over there is I've already built a hostile mob farm 4 times, but luckily I had a backup world sort of saved from the point where I sort of began laying it all out and getting it ready. And after building it 3 different times, 3 completely different hostile mob farm designs that I built here, and every single one of them was just an epic and utter failure, as in the drop rates were just ridiculous. So after the 3rd attempt of building it and recording it on camera, I decided to actually do some research into the hostile mob spawning mechanics. Now, what I'm going to do is quickly hop over into my other world where I have built one, and I'll show you how I initially built it. Okay, now that we're over here in my world, this thing took me probably a good 7 hours in total to completely build up. Like, I built up all the walls around it. I had to go and harvest a load more stone to get it finished and get it all up and running. Now, I'll show you how I've built it and how it all works, and then I'll explain to you on how the mob spawning mechanics work, like the hostile mob spawning, which I had no idea. I thought it was going to be similar to either the console or Java edition, and no, the hostile mob farm designs that you can use on them just will not work on this unless you do it under very specific conditions. Now, over here, what we've got is just a basic Ethos hopper clock, and that will then send a sticky piston down, which will then go to each level. Just wait for this to finish dispensing. Now, I'm not worried about wrecking this at the moment, purely because this world is sort of like a scrap world now. I have to make a backup of my new one, where I've not gone ahead and built this entire thing. So all that water will eventually... Oh no, we've got to wait for it to come back over, don't we? Yeah, so what happens is that the sticky piston goes down, it will then activate the next sticky piston ready for the floor underneath. And then this is where I've just been messing about with it already. And then it will activate the ones below. So then it would activate these ones, and then the same will go down. Now this goes down for how many floors? It's like a good 25 or so floors that I ended up building. And all of this is in survival, obviously, so it took me a ridiculous amount of time. And then I've got our little drop section here, and I was worried that it wasn't picking up the drops correctly, so I tore this all apart. And I AFK'd overnight, and this is like the drops that I got, like 10 string, 26 bones, 23 gunpowder, and like 36 arrows. Don't worry about the water, that's just where I've literally torn out that little section, so it's carried on flowing. Yeah, so I went ahead and I built all of that, and I recorded it. Hopefully, I was hoping for this little entranceway I built going underneath the little river, and it cuts through to our collection area. Now, this area in my other world is obviously still dug out, and I'll probably utilize it for another farm. But as opposed for the hostile mob farm, it was just a complete and utter failure, just a flop, as in the drop rates off from how big it is, and I was AFKing from the top thinking that the mob spawning mechanics were going to be the same, or at least slightly similar to the console or Java edition, but no, in no way whatsoever is it similar, and the mob spawning conditions are I'll go through it quickly with you now, just to explain how badly that I managed to mess up building it here and building it the way that I have built it. So let's just get a couple of blocks on us. Let's say that this magma block is going to be our console edition player. So he'll be up there. Let's say he's at, probably 150 on the Y level. And then we could take these blocks away. And then this is going to be our Bedrock edition player. And then he can be sitting at level Y150. So what happens with the hostile spawning mechanics on console edition? Mobs cannot spawn within 24 blocks of the actual player in any single direction. So all of that area there is unspawnable. So if we do that and that and that and then all that, and then if we get rid of these blocks, that's our safe zone around where our player is standing. And what it will do is that it's also going to be above it also, and it will create a sort of sphere. Now, over 128 blocks, so let's say this is 128 blocks. So that will be that one, that will be that one, that will be that one, and that will be that one, and that will be that one, and that, and that. Now this is like the console and Java edition spawning mechanics. Now this is 128 blocks away in each direction, down, left, right. It's like on the Z axis, on the X axis. So anywhere within this block here and this block here, so between 24 and 128 blocks, hostile mobs can spawn, and it will work as a sphere, as in like a circular rotation around the player. Which is how comes I thought that if I AFK'd up there, if it was the same mechanics, because it was over 128 blocks away from the ground. Now, anything over 128 blocks on Java and console editions, say a mob spawns there, or a mob won't be able to spawn there if you're standing in the middle, but if a mob was to say spawn there before you got into your position over there, over 128 blocks away, the mobs will automatically attempt to despawn. And that's in each direction. So on the console edition and Java edition, if I was to go up to my sort of AFK spot up there, any hostile mobs that were down and around here would automatically begin to despawn, because they'll be over 128 blocks away from the player. And yeah, so on console and Java, that design would have worked fantastically. I've sort of done similar designs before, and they've worked perfectly fine. But if we go over to our Bedrock edition, there's a few key factors that you should know. One is that there's a hard cap for any mobs whatsoever, and that is 200 in total. So what will happen is that, first of all, the big mistake I made was trying to build it in this area, because all mob types, that includes the horses, the llamas, the fish, the villagers, the hostile mobs that are already in the area, my aquarium down below, what other sort of mobs have I got in the area? The cows that I've got down there, the sheep that I've got down there, all of them lot would have all added into the 200 mob cap. So it would have left very limited amount of spawning room for actual hostile mobs in this area, because all of that would still be loaded under the simulation distance of 10 chunks. Everything's going to be within 10 chunks of where I've built that initially, which was one fatal flaw that I made initially, and that's what I thought was messing me up. So I tried to go up higher, and the drop rate still was just absolutely abysmal, and that is due to the second reason. With hostile mob spawns, there is a density cap, which is quite complicated. I'll leave a link in the description below as to where there's a guy called, I think his name is Groover Guy, and he goes through the actual spawning mechanics of Bedrock quite like finitely. Finitely, is that a word? well, quite a lot in depth, a lot more than this, but the simple explanation of this is that obviously you still have the 24 block gap in between where the player is, but it doesn't work on the y-axis. So basically how it will work is, say, mobs can start spawning there, 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 and there. And because it doesn't work on the y-axis, it actually works on a cylinder. So what would happen is that even though you are 150 odd blocks in the air, mobs can also spawn anywhere all the way down to Bedrock. Now obviously they can't spawn on Bedrock just like any edition, but if you're like 150 blocks, 250 blocks, 300 blocks in the air up to build limit, mobs, hostile mobs, can still spawn over that 300 block gap distance all the way down to Bedrock. And that is because the spawning conditions work in a cylinder rather than a sphere, which means me going up there didn't make a blind bit of difference for hostile mob spawning, which was really annoying. The other thing regarding it is that there's a 7 hostile mob cap for cave spawns. There's 2 separate spawns for hostile spawns. You've got cave spawns, which are spawns anything under a solid block. So anything underneath this initial layer, which will be your surface layer, you will be able to have 7 hostile mobs spawn within the vicinity of where you are underneath the ground. And then you also got surface spawns, which is another 7 mob cap. So you can get 7 hostile mobs spawning on the surface at night time, and 7 hostile mobs spawning underneath the ground at any one time within your spawning area, which would be anywhere between 24 blocks and 128 blocks of the player. So it will be from there to there, and then from there to there, and then from there to there. So we'll take all of them out. So where these magma blocks are is our spawn zone, and once again the cylinder shape comes into action, so they'll be able to spawn all the way down to Bedrock up to 128 blocks away, which I think is absolutely a ridiculous mechanic, because it then means that if I'm standing all the way up there, I can then have hostile mobs spawn in all the way over to around about, it will be 128 blocks away in this direction, which would probably be about this far, and they could spawn anywhere down to Bedrock, which would then mean for that mob farm to work at all adequately whatsoever, I would have to light up or half slab every single cave and dark spot within 128 block radius around where I'm AFKing from. Now, to me, that is just a ridiculous type of mechanic to have in it. So obviously it will be coming all the way down to there. So that farm that I initially built was just absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, it frustrated me to the point where I rage quit and I didn't actually play Minecraft for about 3 days, because I built 3 different designs before I looked into the spawning mechanics, and God knows why they're so different compared to the console and Java edition. But yeah, basically it works in a cylinder instead of a sphere shape, so going up as high as you can to avoid mob spawning down below isn't going to help you in any way whatsoever when building a mob farm. So what we are going to be doing today is we're going to hop back over into my other world. Now we're back over into my other world, and that big monstrosity has disappeared. Everything's sort of like a little bit framey because everything's loading in at the moment. Them frames will sort of come back to us. There we go, running smoothly now that everything's rendered in. So yeah, we've saved all the resources on building that monstrosity. That was all built in survival, and it was just, yeah, it was just such a major pain. What we're going to be doing I really want a hostile mob farm because I need gunpowder to make fireworks in order to start even using my elytra, which is how comes I've not got any elytra equipped yet. And the only way to avoid making a mob farm be such an incredible hassle of having to light up or half slab every single dark section within a 28 or 128 block area around it is by doing what the Groover guy has recommended, and that is purely relying on the surface spawns alone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over to an area that I've already cleared out and got ready, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, now that we're over here, we are a good, I think, 1500 odd blocks away. This is roughly in the area of where our Guardian farm is. Got a spider over here that's left from where I've been clearing islands. Now I had to clear a pretty big island there and a massive island here. Now as you can see, 128 blocks in each direction is just covered with water, which means that there's no spawnable spots for hostile mobs whatsoever, which is happy days for building around here. There we go, we've got our bed and we've got our chest. Yeah, all of these chests is from where I was clearing out the area. It took quite a few trips back and forth to repairing my tools to get it done. But what we're going to be doing is taking advantage of only the surface spawns for hostile mobs, which means that this farm that I'm going to be building will only be working during the night time when mobs can actually spawn on the surface, because any light level over 7 obviously mobs can't spawn. So what I'm planning on building is I'm going to do it out of grass in the hopes that during the day we may be able to get some passive mob spawns. Hopefully, fingers crossed, so that way it will still be sort of functioning during the day. But if I leave it AFK overnight, we'll sort of get the build up of the mob drops. It won't be substantial amounts, but it will be hopefully enough to cover us for fireworks and whatnot. We've actually got another ocean monument, which is a fair bit away, just over there. And we've got fish and stuff swimming around here. All of this is like the newly generated terrain sort of area. So yeah, we've got another ocean monument just over there, and there's another one miles over there. But set that aside. Now, what the sort of design I'm going for is going to be very, very basic and simple. It's just going to be 3 very large sort of water slides, pretty much, where the water is just going to be done by a normal hopper clock coming up and down a sort of sloping platform to wash them all down. Now, I'm going to have to start growing some cactus in this area because I need cactus to put along the walls just so that the spiders won't climb them. So we will start doing that straight away. Let's do this. How many have I got on me? 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we can start growing the cactus. Now, I'm going to quickly run along. This isn't going to be too long of a build for me. So, hopefully I should have all of the platforms up and done within around about half hour, 45 minutes. Because they're very simple to build. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to start smelting some of this sand if I've got any cobblestone. But I think I was using my silk touch pick to gather all of the stone, which means I've got no cobblestone. Let me grab some stone, please. Now, one good thing about taking advantage of just the surface spawns is that we don't actually then have to worry about lighting up any caves underneath, because we're not concerned about having hostile mobs spawning underground, because there's only a set limit that can spawn underground, and that limit doesn't affect the limit that will be able to spawn on the surface. So yeah, like I said, we are literally only taking advantage of the surface spawns. I am using my fortune, yeah, it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to crack out, get these platforms built, and I'll bring you back once they're all in place. Okay guys, it's probably been a good 2 or 3 hours. I've gone ahead and I've built the entire thing, and I chose to do it off camera because it was pretty quick and easy to actually build the whole thing, but it was just more repetitive more than anything else. Well, you go away, dolphin. So what we've got here is that we've got our standard collection system, which is a hopper minecart system. So if we just poke our head in here, we should actually see them fly back and forth, hopefully. Well, there's one of them, and there's the other. Now, I've tried my best to make the entire thing spawn-proof, so stuff can only actually spawn within the actual confines of the farm. So what we've got is a little baby sheep about to die, which is a little bit brutal, but can't help that. Now, we've got standard, just basically lines of pistons. They're 14 along on each section, separated by a 2-section gap. I've built this right bang on the corner of an actual chunk. So from here is -1, and then on there, I think is it 0? Or no, it goes from -1. Here is the start of the chunk, and then the chunk always starts the -280 or 2080. So the spawning pads are actually beginning of their individual chunks. So each one spreads out over a long 2-chunk distance each. So it takes up 6 chunks altogether. Now the reason that I've made it confined within these chunks is because the spawning rules they try to go chunk by chunk to see where mobs can spawn. So fitting the spawning pads in individual chunks themselves actually increases, well, hopefully should increase the sort of spawn ratio of what you get. Now what I am seeing is that during the daytime we'll get quite a few different passive mobs. You'll get horses, cows, sheep, pigs, and then you'll also get the odd dolphin and squid, which are spawning in the water back there. Now it's done very simply with a standard hopper clock. So if we go up this ladder, this is like my little maintenance ladder that I needed just to sort of run the redstone. We've got a hopper clock here, which can be switched off obviously before we leave the area. That runs into just a little redstone torch, which then runs into a line of repeaters, and then it goes 15 along, and then another repeater, 15 along, another repeater, then 15 along, just to control the pistons going up and down. And then I've whacked a load of half slabs on there because it is a very rare occurrence, but for some reason, although it's been in the bug fix, mobs can still occasionally spawn on redstone cabling. So we've got bottom half slabs running along the top of there, half slabs on top of our hopper clock there. We've got glass and then half slabs along the outer rim of it, just to prevent spawns, which is, it seems to be working pretty well so far. Now, the only 2 issues that I've run into so far with this is, one, obviously the hostile side of it will only work during the nighttime cycle. 2 is spiders, which is how comes I'm growing the cactus. Now what I'm planning to do is every other slab I'm going to take out, replace with sand, and then just plant a cactus there. So then if a spider, it's been a very rare occurrence, but if a spider, it's just a random fish now flopping around. If a spider does try to climb up the walls, if there's cactus there, he'll just climb into the cactus and die. Because if he then does jump out of the actual mob farm, he can then swim around in the water for a good hour or so before he finally gets far enough away to be able to despawn. But yeah, I think I've had one spider and I've had it running for about an hour and a half, 2 hours now, just to check it. The only other issue that I've run into is Enderman, and it's very rare. It's happened once in the last 2 hours, that because I've used grass, and I've used grass purely so passive mobs can then spawn during the daytime cycles, that Enderman, if they do spawn there, they can actually pick up the grass and carry it away with them. And that's only happened once so far. I've had more than one Enderman spawn. I've had quite a few spawn, but because they get damaged by the water, they'll try to teleport away. There's nowhere actually around here for them to teleport to except for the caves underneath. And if they teleport down there, it doesn't affect the spawn rates that I'm going to be getting up here. Like, as you can see, I'm getting the old cow and sheep. I'm getting squids as well spawning in the backwater. And then during the nighttime cycles, the only other mob that's given me a little bit of hassle is witches, and that's because they drink the health brews, and the water isn't out long enough to kill them without them being able to then walk back onto the grass using their health brews. So occasionally, now and again, I'll have to fire an arrow into a witch just to get rid of them. but I may just increase the timer so then the water's out for longer, and then that will actually sort out that problem, but I'm not going to bother doing that now. I'm going to see how it runs for a little bit. What I will do for you now is that I'm going to leave it run without my HUD or my hand in the way. So if we go to our settings, we'll go to video, hide our hand, hide our HUD. So then you've got a few. I'm going to let it run for a day and night cycle, and I'll speed it up for you guys just so you can see the sort of spawns we get. So here we go.
Watching seasons change, our roads were lined with adventure, mountains in the way, couldn't keep us from the sea. Here we stand open arms, this is home where we are, ever strong in the world that we made. I still hear you in the breeze, see your shadows in the trees, holding on, memories never change.
So, as you can see, the rates aren't outrageously good, but as for an AFKable farm design, considering that it works during the day as a passive mob farm and during the night as a hostile mob farm, you probably noticed as well that you saw a few Endermen darting about here and there. One of them did have a block in his hand, but I don't think he actually grabbed it from my farm, this one. And if he does, it's quite easy to check because you can just swim directly underneath, and any holes that do appear you can quite easily tell, especially when there's water running across, because you'll see the water coming down. But yeah, he doesn't look like he's nicked one from my area. I think he must have grabbed one from probably one of the caves underneath, teleported up with it, and then he's obviously bugged out and gone somewhere else with it. And dolphins deciding to follow me. But we'll see what sort of drops we've been getting anyway. Quite a very different amount of drops. The redstone and sticks is obviously from the witch. We've got 36 gunpowder, over a stack of bones, nearly a stack of raw pork chops, if my words come out. Some raw chicken, feathers, different coloured wool from the different coloured sheep that are spawning, some leather, some raw beef, zombie flesh, again eggs when chickens are there long enough to lay some eggs. But yeah, we are actually getting quite the assortment of drops, and that's probably over the period of around about 2.5 hours now that I've got that much, which in all fairness isn't too bad. If I was to leave it AFK overnight for a good like 10-12 hours, I'm fairly sure this double chest would easily be filled up, especially considering the amount of random sort of stuff we're getting. Like the ink sacs, I wasn't expecting the raw fish, I wasn't expecting, I didn't take into account the different coloured walls, so what I may end up ouch, stupid cactus. What I may end up doing is that we've got a bed here, just so that it's easier for you to see. Now, I will obviously be lightening up, or I would have already lightened up the contrast. Where's my bed gone? I could have swore that I left the bed right here. And the worst thing is that I accidentally broke my ender. My bed's on me. My ender chest with the wrong pickaxe, so now I've just got 8 obsidian. So yeah, happy days. Put a bed on here. We'll go to sleep. We'll sleep away this night just so I can end the episode during the day. So then you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. Yeah, so what was I saying? I've completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, the amount of different types of drops that I wasn't expecting. So I will obviously have to extend this double chest into like a sorting system of some sort, and sort of funnel out the different types of items to the correct chest just so that there's enough room for each one. The main thing that I wanted to build this farm for was the gunpowder, and that is purely to create the rockets for the fireworks. Now, in between this episode and the next one, bye bye zombie. Oh, look, we've got a couple of fish flopping about as well. Yeah, in between this episode and the next one, I am going to implement the cactus running around the outer rim just to prevent the spiders from being able to climb up. When chickens spawn, they spawn in like groups of 2 and 3, but they spawn all on the same block, and then they sort of like burst and separate. It's a little bit weird. When it happens with the other creatures, like the cows or the sheeps, if more than one of them spawn on the same block, it's usually a baby one that spawns with them. But chickens, yeah, they're sort of like spawning bombs. Yeah, in between this episode and next one, before I get too sort of sidetracked with my way of thinking, I will be implementing the sand going around the outer edge. I will do an AFK session overnight in the hopes that we get enough gunpowder to supply ourselves with rockets. I've had the villagers breeding in between last episode and this one, and I've got a bunch of new librarians to go through to hopefully find another mending book guy, because I really don't want to go using Elytra until we've got mending and unbreaking on it. So I'm going to have to go back over there and do all of them bits and pieces. But for today, this episode, although recording this sort of section of the episode doesn't counteract the fact that I wasted, it was 3 full episodes that I had recorded building 3 completely different designs of hostile mob farms, and I only wish I knew the spawning mechanics beforehand, because otherwise I would have went straight ahead and just built this design straight off the bat, because as you can tell, this design actually works fairly well. And I'm quite happy with it. It's very simple to do. I think the only thing, if you were to replicate this in one of your own worlds, is, I hate when I do that. Thank you. Is trying to find an area that is far enough open that you've got ocean, like within 128 block distance all the way around. Now, with me, I couldn't actually find an area like that. This area did actually have this entire island here, which, in all fairness, it wasn't that big. Taking down this entire island, I think it was about 3 or 4 levels. You had a little section over there, and then you had a little section over there, and then a tiny little island over there. And it didn't even fill, I think it was in total just under about 6 double chests worth. Like, a lot of the items, obviously, I did leave to despawn, but I tried to be resource friendly in sort of storing the items over there. I'm just smelting up some more glass to put around here to create a decent AFK spot for later on tonight. And I'll see how it runs overnight. No doubt I'll probably wake up tomorrow and there'll be a bunch of holes from where Enderman and nicked the dirt. But I definitely want to get the sand and cactus in place before I go ahead and do that. And we'll try to think of a solution for the thieving Enderman before next episode. I have no idea what I'm doing in the next episode, by the way. I'm hoping that the update Aquatic Phase 2 drops before I get round to recording the next episode. This one should hopefully be released on tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. And then I'll have another episode hopefully up and done, ready for you guys for the Friday. I try to get 3 done each week, but obviously with the snafu that I've had trying to work out this farm, yeah, it's extremely delayed. I think it's about a week in between episodes. I think the last one was last Friday, so it's nearly a week since I've put out an episode, which is unfortunate, but yeah, you live, you learn, and unfortunately with me, I found that the hard way regarding the hostile spawning mechanics. But hopefully by watching this, you have learned how the hostile mob spawn, and you managed to build a decent hostile mob farm and actually come up with probably better designs than this one. This one's a very straight and simple forward one, and you get the extra benefit, as you can see, with the passive mob spawning during the daytime cycles. So it's a multi-use mob farm. So happy days there. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully you've learned a lot from it, well, as much as I have in recording it. And I'll hopefully see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.